Hey guys, welcome back to this section. My name is Chris. Today we're going to be breaking down Stargirl Season 3, Episode 13, or the series finale as it happens. Alright, so as always, before getting into the breakdown, make sure you've seen the episode, as there's going to be some spoilers ahead. As I mentioned, this is the series finale, so we're going to be reflecting on a lot of stuff in this episode. And this episode starts off with a flashback to about 9 months ago, where Icicle and Dragon King dig up Sylvester's body, and then place the Ultra-Humanite's brain inside of it. But before that, Sylvester is brought back to life briefly, and before his brain is removed, he asks where Pat is, highlighting the friendship the two had when he was still alive. We then come back to the present day, where the JSA discuss how Sylvester was manipulating them from the start, discovering that he may not be who he says he is. Jordan tells his family that Starman is now their ally, but that is not the case for Courtney and her friends, adding that Pat has been killed by the Ultra-Humanite. Sophus can tell he is lying, but gets shut down when bringing it up. Cameron calls Courtney, telling her where Sylvester, or rather the Ultra-Humanite is, likely doing so in order to lead them into a trap. We then see Pat crawl out of the ground where he was buried. Don't ask me how he was able to hold his breath for so long, but I'm just glad he isn't dead. And it's explained a little bit later how he actually manages to do this. Mike, Jakeem and Cindy continue running away from Dragon King, who of course is inside of the Ultra-Humanite's body, so is quite dangerous currently. The JSA go to the location that Cameron told them to go, only to see Sylvester accompanied by the entire McKent family. Sylvester lies to Courtney, telling her that the Ultra-Humanite killed Pat, whereas it was really him. In this case, they are more so referring to the bodies, because as we know, it was really the Ultra-Humanite that tried to kill Pat. So it's not really a lie, but the impression is that he's pretending to be Sylvester, so it is in this case. As the ISA continue trying to convince the JSA of their false story, Stripe then flies in, coming as a massive shock to both teams. Pat tells the JSA that Sylvester is actually the Ultra-Humanite, which then kickstarts a fight between the two teams. Dragon King catches up to Cindy and the boys, and Cindy attacks him, with two fights occurring now simultaneously. Ultra-Humanite and Pat fight each other, while the rest of the JSA fight the McKents. Rick has more reactions from the Hourglass's exposure, which causes him to take a massive blow from Icicle and Cameron. Beth manages to convince Sophus not to fight, but as a result, Lily attempts to kill him. However, in the process, she ends up killing herself after a distraction from Wildcat. Jakeem makes a wish for Cindy to never be bothered by Dragon King again, which saves her from being ripped in two and transforms Dragon King into it looks like a plush toy. Meanwhile, Ultra-Humanite rips Pat out of Stripe, and Barbara joins the fight, saving Courtney from being hurt by Icicle, which then prompts Icicle to kill her. However, Cameron gets in the way of the blast, and he starts to fight his father. Just before the Ultra-Humanite is able to kill Pat, Courtney regains control of the Cosmic Staff, making it inert for him. Now without the staff, Pat is able to fight back against the Ultra-Humanite, eventually knocking him down after trading blows for a short time. Courtney goes to help Cameron fight against his father. After buying some time, Cameron uses his powers against Icicle, managing to kill him. Or presumably so. After defeating Icicle and the Ultra-Humanite, Cameron goes to help his grandfather and then leaves. Back at home, Courtney asks Pat how he was able to escape, in which he explains he dislocated both his thumbs to slip out of the restraints, and then he dug himself out from there. This definitely gives me major Oliver Queen vibes, as he was able to do the same thing in Arrow. And there are probably many more instances of this in other movies and TV shows, but this one definitely is most prominent to me. Rick goes to the chapels for help in getting over his addiction to the hourglass, where both he and Beth apologize for their actions throughout the season. Charles Mid-Nite, aka the original Dr. Mid-Nite, goes to see Sylvester at the hospital, and explains that the Ultra-Humanite's brain is dead, but Sylvester's body is perfectly fine, which makes him think that if they find Sylvester's brain, they could bring him back from the dead, for real this time. We then cut to see Sylvester's brain in a lab in the mountains somewhere. It doesn't tell us where exactly though, and he's being kept in a state where his last memory is played over and over again, and that happens to be the one we saw at the beginning of the episode. Mike meets with his mother after Pat was considering this throughout the course of the season. After returning, Mike calls Barbara his mother, despite meeting his biological mother just then, which is obviously a very heartwarming moment. Courtney meets with the gambler's daughter, whose name is Rebecca, or Becky as she is referred to in the episode, and she hands her the letter that the gambler wrote for her earlier in the season. Rick goes out to where he buried Solomon Grundy, and sees him rise from the dead, as is one of his abilities. Yolanda calls her mother once again, and it appears as though she's going to share the truth with her, in an attempt to repair their relationship. Speaking of relationships, Courtney goes to the McCann's house to find Cameron, but it appears Cameron has accepted Courtney's help in coming to terms with everything that happened with him and his family. We then cut forward 3 months to Denmark, where we see Icicle roaming around, meaning that he is not as dead as we first thought. But then Artemis lures him into a trap, where she uses some chemical to trap him and burn him, and this chemical is apparently able to burn water, which may mean that he's dead for good this time. At least we hope so. And then with another time jump, we go 10 years into the future this time, where the Shade leads a tour of a museum, where the center attraction is the Justice Society of America's table. And not the original Justice Society either, but the new one, as we learn when he mentions the names Starwoman, who is presumably Courtney once she grows older, Wildcat, aka Yolanda, Jade and Obsidian, aka Jenny and Todd, Dragon Queen, aka Cindy Berman, Stripe 2.0, who is presumably Mike, Jakeem Thunder, which is self-explanatory, Icicle, who is no doubt Cameron, Artemis, Sand, who may be Wesley Dodd's nephew Sandy Hawkins, Damage, who if the show wants to be consistent with the comics, would be Grant Emerson, Owlman, aka Rick, Dr. Mid-Nite, aka Beth, who is apparently getting married, and then of course we have Solomon Grundy. And this is one pretty big team, 14 members, if I've counted correctly. The Shade mentions all of the things that they have done throughout the past 3 seasons, in addition to some things that we have not seen on camera. That must have happened somewhere between the end of this 3rd season and these 10 years into the future. He mentions that they brought Sylvester back to life and rescuing the 7 Soldiers of Victory from the Nebula Man, which may be what they had planned for season 4, but sadly we will never get to see that. And then to close out the season, and the series as a whole, Jay Garrick, aka The Flash, comes out of some portal, possibly a link to the Speed Force. He then asks the Shade to help the JSA in their new mission, whatever that may be. And that is the end. Or is it possibly never the end? Anyway, to end off this episode, I want to share a clip with you, so I'm going to do all the outro stuff before I show you this clip. Anyway, so I hope you did enjoy this video and all my previous breakdowns. If you do, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing for more content like this. But until next time, this has been Chris, and I'll be seeing ya.
They're the greatest heroes the world has ever seen.
But they won't be the last. Oh no. Because there are other legacies of heroism waiting for a new generation to find, to take on, and rise up. For as much as evil has tried to destroy the Justice Society of America, it cannot.
Nothing can.